love something, you fight for it. We're the ones who changed everything.
Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be my new Marvel Eternals video for how they lead up to mutants and X-Men inside the MCU, or they are one of the ways we see mutants and X-Men inside the MCU. There'll be a couple different ways that I'll explain during the video. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. We'll start seeing more Eternals trailers later this summer when the Black Widow movie comes out, when Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings comes out. So there's a lot of really big stuff coming up. We're doing a new Disney Plus giveaway for memberships because Loki episodes are coming up. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and let me know what you want them to do with the Eternals inside the MCU going forward. But during the Eternals trailer footage that they released, Gemma Chan's Cersei character is talking to someone saying, "We're the ones who changed everything," both metaphorically and literally. Like they went around actively changing the course of human history and evolution, but also changed it in passive ways without completely realizing what was going on. And that's where we get to the whole X-Men and Mutants of it all. So in that new Eternals teaser trailer footage that they released recently, they give you an early look at them during a couple different time periods, and their two different speeches are meant to give you an idea for their overarching philosophy just guiding their actions inside the MCU. Like, what are they doing on Earth, what are they here for, and why are they doing this? If you've read any of the recent or even the older Jack Kirby Eternals comic books, you have a pretty good idea for their origins compared to the other big Marvel comic book groups with powers like the Inhumans, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Asgardians like Thor, characters like the Hulk and Spider-Man that have biological powers. Marvel has a bunch of different ways of explaining where biological powers come from. People who had their DNA mutated after they were teenagers or adults getting into accidents. Monica Rambeau is probably the best example of that in present-day MCU. During WandaVision, she passed through Scarlet Witch's chaos magic hex barrier enough times that it completely mutated her DNA, and she got powers. I did a whole video on her a couple months ago explaining why she's secretly one of the most powerful new characters in the MCU because of the way her powers work, so I'll link that below in the description. But Monica Rambeau isn't a mutant. In order to be called a mutant, traditionally you have to be born with your powers, so a lot of you realize that when Billy and Tommy were created on WandaVision, they actually meet that requirement. So as far as we know, they're the first two characters that we've seen that were born mutants in the MCU. Technically, she did use her chaos magic to create them with a little help from Hex Vision, although she did most of the work. So Scarlet Witch messing with the Hex and her chaos magic is just one of the ways early mutants start to show up in the Marvel Disney Plus series, eventually the Marvel movies, because Billy and Tommy are supposed to come back and have a minor role in Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness, so they can pay off that whole WandaVision post-credit scene with her trying to save them from an alternate reality. The difference with the Eternals influencing the creation of mutants and X-Men characters in the MCU is actually through an accident, whereas Scarlet Witch was trying to create two new beings on purpose. So this is where we get into some of the changes that the Eternals movie is making to the Eternals backstory. In the comics originally, the Celestials were created by the cosmic entity Eternity, which is the living embodiment of the multiverse. Like the multiverse has a consciousness. Peter Quill talks about Eternity during Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. He gets a glimpse of it when Ego the Living Planet sort of activates his celestial DNA. Another small change to the MCU. Ego the Living Planet in the MCU is another one of the Celestials. He's just on a twisted version of the same mission that the regular Celestials are on. So Eternity created the Celestials for the purposes of gardening each universe and experimenting with life. Just go around and experiment on planets, trying to create new life and see what happens. Because we have the new Fantastic Four movie coming, Galactus, for example, his cosmic role is a little bit like the Celestials. It works hand in hand with the Celestials. His cosmic purpose is sort of weeding the garden, metaphorically, talking about the universe. Like you do controlled burns sometimes to recharge nutrients into the soil. That's Galactus on a cosmic scale. He eats planets as a way to prevent stagnation and overpopulation. Everyone post all your Thanos memes. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. The other minor change that apparently they explained during the Eternals movie, at least in the MCU, is that the Deviants came before the Eternals, and the Celestials created the Deviants in the MCU in order to protect the new life that was growing on each of the planets around the universe. At least initially, the Deviants were supposed to hunt predators preying on the new life that the Celestials were experimenting with. But at some point they explained the Deviants rebel against the Celestials and start killing off all the regular life forms too. So in response, the Celestials then create the Eternals to go around and stop the Deviants from doing that, to protect life. Like the way you hear Ajax, Salma Hayek's character, say during that trailer footage, if you love something, you fight for it. Because they intercut that with the footage of the wedding that's happening on the beach, they're talking about the Eternals fighting for each other, like they love each other, so they're fighting for each other. But it's also a metaphor for them loving humanity and fighting for humanity, trying to stop the deviants, trying to stop other things from killing off all life on the planet. Even though the deviants are portrayed as villains during the Eternals movie, they are not the main villains, technically. Really, the Celestials are more like the main villains. If you remember the Loki speech during the first Avengers movie when he's talking to Nick Fury about crushing ants under his boot, and Nick Fury's like, wait, are we the ants? Are you the boot? What's going on here? On a more cosmic scale, the Celestials are the boot, and humanity, Earth, is the ant. So like you see Esau the Searcher in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie using the Power Stone to wipe out an entire planet's worth of life, that's basically them getting rid of an experiment that they feel like didn't pan out. Anytime the Celestials are done with an experiment, they'll just toss it in the cosmic waste bin, so to speak. So during the Eternals movie, not only are the Eternals trying to stop the deviants from killing humans, they're also trying to stop the Celestials from threatening all life. But the way the drama between the Eternals, the Deviants, and the Celestials play out and lead to the creation of mutants and X-Men characters inadvertently, at least through an accident, is that apparently during the movie, the Celestials also lay a celestial egg inside planet Earth, and they're trying to grow another Celestial eventually. But because it's a Celestial, it takes eons for it to grow, so it's just sitting there growing inside planet Earth for hundreds of thousands, even millions of years. And over all those years, it slowly begins to irradiate Earth's soil with its celestial energies that it's just giving off, slowly modifying human DNA until eventually humans develop the X gene and start to be born with biological powers. It's a little like the idea of the background cosmic radiation that Scarlet Witch is manipulating to modify things inside the Hex, like the same type of energy that was given off during the Big Bang, the same energy inside the Infinity Stones. This is the same type of cosmic energy that the Celestials wield on a certain level. But normally, when you're not Scarlet Witch and you don't have chaos magic abilities, it takes eons for something like this to change DNA to modify things. Marvel kind of did a version of this story in the comics where they said that celestial blood was tainting Earth's soil and that was slowly modifying human DNA over time. So the movie explainer is just a little bit different. It's the exact same concept of what happened with vibranium in Wakanda. The vibranium meteorite crashes in Wakanda. In over thousands and thousands of years, the vibranium leaches into the soil, affecting the plant and animal DNA, eventually human DNA because they're feeding on all the animals and the plants. Just a very scientific way of explaining what seems like magical abilities. They do that a lot during the Thor movies as well, saying, oh, this thing that you think is magic is really just highly advanced science that you guys haven't figured out yet. So a lot of you are asking, if the Celestials are inadvertently leading to the creation of mutants in the MCU by slowly modifying human DNA, where have mutants been this whole time? Why haven't we started to see them until now? There are a couple reasons, as you suspected. Some of them are plot armor reasons, like legal reasons. They literally could not do mutants or X-Men until now in the MCU. So all the Marvel movies up to about the Eternals were developed starting before the Fox Disney deal was done. So Kevin Feige originally had to develop a plan for the next 5 years of Marvel movies that didn't involve mutants or X-Men characters. WandaVision is sort of an exception to that with Billy and Tommy. They kind of skated by on that because nobody literally calls them a mutant or an X-Men character during that series. They're just born with powers. Everyone thinks it's weird for a minute until they just eventually accept it. So actually using mutant characters like mainstream big X-Men characters in movies takes way longer because the movies take a long time to develop and they couldn't start developing those movies until after the Disney Fox deal was done. So that's why we probably won't be seeing a ton of traditional full-blown mutants, X-Men characters running around the Marvel movies till at least around 2023, 2024. So that's like Black Panther 2 territory, Fantastic Four movie, the later movies that are coming out. So just tune your expectations accordingly for that. That's why Kevin Feige says they haven't even gotten close to casting a new version of Wolverine, because they're literally just starting to develop the new Marvel X-Men movie right now. But on a story level, the way they justify mutants just starting to show up now is mostly the concept that that growing celestial egg deep in the planet's surface took eons to modify human DNA to the point where eventually people just start being born with powers. That's just starting to happen after the events of Avengers Endgame, like we're just now starting to see it. Then there's the way they're mining the snap, Avengers Infinity War, the events of Avengers Endgame for drama in the later movies influencing the future of the MCU. Really good example is that Rocket claims in Avengers Endgame that the cosmic energy given off by a single Infinity Gauntlet snap is so massive that it's never been seen on that scale before in the history of the universe. And there were 3 Infinity Gauntlet snaps within the span of 5 years, all on planet Earth in close proximity to each other. So those also act as a catalyst for change, affecting everything in the future in unexpected ways. But the writers essentially use events like that to connect these new weird concepts and these new weirder characters to all the stuff that's come before, like the Marvel Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3 characters. As we get more Eternals trailer videos, I'll do more videos on the other characters as well, like Kit Harington's Black Knight character. He's going to be really cool in the MCU. His main weapon, the Ebony Blade, is kind of like a Stormbreaker level weapon inside the MCU. It also has some of the same abilities that Stormbreaker has. And of course, we have all the Loki episodes coming up in a couple weeks. I'll be doing videos for each of those episodes. Congratulations, Mr. J. Juck. You're the giveaway winner from my last big Marvel video. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your contact details. Everyone click here for my full Marvel Eternals trailer breakdown, that big Marvel Phase 4 trailer, and click here for my new Thor 4 Love and Thunder first look video. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. I'll see you guys tonight.